I think that one thing that is unique about this role that sports plays within social media is that there is this entertainment aspect. There's also news and there's also storytelling. My team does all of that at once in conjunction at the same time.
Hey Max, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm quite excited because I think that is one of the first time that we talk about sports on social media, at least on this channel. So maybe we touch base on it here and there, but this is the first time that we go so much in detail. We did it with athletes, okay? We did an episode about what does it mean to be an athlete and do it an influencer at the same time. But it's the first time that we go so much in detail about social media. So I'm very excited about this episode. But before doing that, I always love, of course, to have the guests just to present themselves. And we found this way that is a bit structure so that you can just follow that. It's called the map. And basically it's, the mission. So what do you aim to achieve with what you do, right? Your achievements, anything that you're really proud of, oh yeah, I got this milestone, either professionally or personally in your life. And the last one is the purpose. So in addition to the mission, so what do you aim to achieve? The purpose is that why do you do what you do?
Wow. My mission has always been to be on the forefront of whatever is going on in media. I grew up loving film and television, and as I've gotten older and so much of media consumption has moved to our phones, so has my career. So that I always just want to be on the forefront there and propelling whatever is the next innovation in media. I'm proud of a lot of different accomplishments that I've had in my career, particularly at ESPN, where I've been for the past 8 years. And there's so many great memories and things that I've done. But I'm probably most thrilled about filming a documentary on Mount Everest, with a couple of really accomplished climbers who summited the mountain without any supplemental oxygen. I had a hard time with eating some bad yak on my way to base camp, where I was driven in a car. I did not climb, but I'm proud of that accomplishment of the documentary we made, which aired on ESPN and ABC. When I think about the purpose of what I do, it's currently, when I think about my purpose with sports, it's about bringing in new sports fans. It's about bringing sports to the fans and meeting them where they are. And I think that I do that in two different ways, or my purpose comes out in two different ways. One is through this new age media, right? Through social media, through digital sharing of sports. The other thing is inclusive principles. I want to make sure that we're including not just your traditional, or what I would consider traditional, basketball and football fans. I want to bring in a wide array of sports from across the globe. I want to include women's sports. I want to tell stories that aren't told as often, and to be able to do that with a megaphone of a company like ESPN is something I'm really proud of.
And that is a great message. And let's go in more in detail about that, right? So we can also go a step back for a second, just go more on the ESPN on social media. How do you approach content? What are some of your ideas and concepts and guidelines and so on? And then after that, I would love to go more inside these because for me, coming from Europe, right, I know that sports is so much different between Europe, for instance, and the US, right? And other countries have others way, right? Here in the US, it's very about entertainment, while in Europe, for us, it's more about the sport itself, right? So when you approach in general sport on social media, again, how do you start? You wake up and doing first things in the day, and how do you think about what to put on when it comes to social media content?
Yeah, great question, because there's so many different opportunities. And one thing that you say we don't have sports here often, and I think that one thing that is unique about this role that sports plays within social media is that there is this entertainment aspect. There's also news, and there's also storytelling. And to me, it's important that my team does all of that at once in conjunction at the same time. The result, we wind up with 400 posts a day, and we're keeping that going and posting for 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, all gas, no breaks. And having that differentiation between this particular moment is just simply exciting versus this particular moment is groundbreaking and requires a larger story, which maybe requires a video or maybe a carousel with a lot of writing that tells that story. depending on what those moments are, we let the sports and the news and the stories come to us. And then our role is to digest that and then find the best platform to shoot that back out on so that we can reach, if not the widest audience, the best audience.
Specific sports that might not have that mainstream audience right yet, first of all, and then after that, how also do you approach the type of content there? Do you have like a dedicated, let's say, person in your team that only takes care of that diversity type of inclusion of a sport? Do you have like across different team members and they choose every day depending on what is going on with the news? Like, tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, it's going to be a mix of both. Like any social media team or like any job or role or team in general, everyone's going to have their strengths. And so sometimes you have some people that are assigned to specific things. And in our team, we're broken up where for all the different sports and all the different leagues that we cover, there's going to be a specific lead that manages that. And that's the expert on that space and is able to kind of be, I'll use my sports terminology, that's kind of the point guard that then is in charge of kind of pointing the direction or dishing out who's going where and doing what. So I'll give just one example of something that we've been really proud of our growth over the past couple of years at ESPN as a whole, not just social media, is the growth of women's basketball. Specifically, I'm thinking of women's collegiate basketball, where ESPN is the U.S. rights holder for the NCAA tournament, which was incredibly compelling in 2023 and hopefully the same in 2024. So in this case, this is something that on my team, we recognized several years ago. It was a bit of an untapped space. We saw all of this excitement for the men's basketball, men's college basketball, and the men's tournament, and recognized that there's a whole second tournament. And if you love this tournament, and whether you love betting on this tournament or you love rooting for your alma mater, there's an entire second one and a second group of 64 teams. And so we really dedicated ourselves to figuring out how can we tap into that space? How can we get more fans to recognize that? We've been blessed with the beautiful play of players like Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese over the past couple of years. They make our job easy because they're stars. Caitlin Clark in particular has become so iconic and electric. But we made a dedication to, hey, if we're going to post about men's basketball, we're going to also post about women's basketball. Mm-hmm. If we're going to post about men's collegiate basketball, we're also going to post about women's collegiate basketball. If we're going to promote the men's tournament, we're going to promote the women's tournament. That level of intention is what's allowed us to build more equity. The entire industry has more room to go and more room to grow. But it started with that level of intention, setting specific people in charge of that sport that may not have had someone in charge of that previously. And then setting a commitment to the entire team that this is something that we're really paying attention to. This is something we're locked in on.
What are the type of contents? Have you identified anything that works best? Like, is it like the best action of the game? Is it the meme content? Is it the entertaining one? Is it the one aspirational for, let's say, younger, people that want to join a different sport? Have you identified something or like all of them works at the same time? Like, I'm curious about that.
Yeah. It definitely depends on the sport a little bit, but I would say that if there's one thing that works the best, it's going to be user-generated content and aggregating user-generated content. And that's important to me because that's one way that I can get a younger audience involved and interested in sports and involved and interested in great athletic feats, no matter who's doing them, right? Sometimes it's going to be an amazing video that a fan shoots of Steph Curry shooting a shot from the tunnel and then waving to a fan and giving away his jersey. And that's really fun to see. Other times it's going to be a young boy with his grandma in the backyard and he does a backflip into a pool and she throws him an alley-oop and he dunks it. And that's amazing to see. And so being able to be almost agnostic in terms of where that great moment happens, but showcasing it nonetheless is really important to me. I grew up watching ESPN and SportsCenter on television. I understand that kids aren't necessarily doing that today. So how can I help them find the love for sports that I had by turning on the TV? And where can I bring that to Instagram? Can I bring that to Snapchat? Can I bring that to YouTube to meet them where they are?
And how does it work for the, let's say, picking the content, moderate the content? I guess that a lot of people send you, all these UGC, right? And you might receive so many emails, DMs, and so on. How does it work there? Like, let's say that the same person sent it to different teams. Like, how do you communicate internally to be like, this is a good one, let's post this one, or this one, we already got it? Like, because again, so many pages, so I'm curious to understand. And also, like, how do you choose the one that is going to be, the right type of content? Because I guess, again, that you receive so many every day.
Volume is it's not a goal necessarily. It's just the result of what we're doing. I got a skilled team, right? I think it is just, if you know, you know. And then again, I'm blessed to work at a company that has such a legacy in this space and has such a megaphone, as I mentioned before, so that I know that, hey, if I see this video and it looks good, and I can, just objectively or subjectively, I can tell it just looks good, it's exciting, this is fun, and it has 10,000 likes already, and so it's going, based on this user, to them it's viral, it's got 10,000 likes. I know that if they send it to me and I can then repost it, I can get it 300,000 likes and expand it that much. So having that eye and recognizing that if it starts here, once I post it, it's going to go to here. And that's a win-win for everybody involved, really.
Is your brand ready to amplify its reach? Well, the Influencer Marketing Factory is here for you. We are a global influencer marketing agency helping brands ignite their growth. From influencer identification to campaign strategy, handling legalities and agreements, to managing shipping and logistics, we got you all covered. We work with hundreds of brands across different verticals, from Fortune 500 companies to direct-to-consumer brands. And we don't just stop there. With detailed ROI analysis, we help brands like yours measure success, transforming impressions into conversions. You can find us at theinfluencermarketingfactory.com or just searching the Influencer Marketing Factory on Google. And in addition to UGC, right? So we said very important for you to get to this quota every single day, posting them out. They are very, so authentic, relatable, right? Because it's not the typical video that is created in studio, so people can relate oh yeah, so the same game. And it's also very nice when you see, I think, different angles of the same action, right? Because you see that and different people getting together. So this is also something interesting. But I wanted to ask you, so now, ESPN, I think most followed, what is it now? 46 million or more, even more on TikTok, millions and millions on other social media. So one of the most, followed brands. What else, in addition to UGC, did you do with your team in terms of growth strategy? And for people listening out there that maybe have something similar in the sports space, what else would you do again that worked very well, that got to these fantastic, outstanding numbers?
Yeah, well, there's two things I want to talk about there. And one you just kind of alluded to is getting those alternative angles of an event, right? So we're very proud of all of being a rights holder of so many sports across America. And I'm talking about what's available on television and streaming in terms of the sports. And so probably 4, 5, 6 games a week, we will send social media specialists on site to be able to, even though there's 35 cameras capturing this broadcast for television, I still want to send my social media specialists there to capture what they can on this or on a DSLR to get exactly those alternative angles that you're talking about, to get those fan interactions, to get the two players dapping each other up before a game. These moments fans are interested in as much or more than watching the game itself and seeing the way that plays out. So I want to be able to give them all of an understanding of what it's like to be at the game and around the game. And then the other thing is, at the end of the day, we're all storytellers, right? Everybody's here. Everybody that comes on here in some form or fashion is all storytellers, right? So telling these stories of sports is so important to me. At the end of the day, what you have is these amazing feats of athleticism done by these young people who started their lives just like you and me, who fell in love with these sports and decided to be dedicated to it and use their natural given ability and taking advantage of every opportunity and put in the work. Every single athlete, whether you're a college star or professional athlete or a high school star, you're unique in your journey there. And the more of those stories that I can tell, whether that's, again, in a single 6-second capture of a video that kind of encompasses that, whether that's in a detailed carousel, whether that's in a voiceover storytelling piece. These are the things that we want to get in on and invested on. And I think that's something that differentiates certainly ESPN, but I think it differentiates a little bit of the sports industry from the rest of the landscape that you have on social media.
Amazing. It's something that I also usually ask, no matter the industry, anytime they have like, a topic plus social media, always ask, to the guests this, what do you like the most when it comes to social media and in your case, sports? And then instead of asking you what you don't like, I'm asking, I would like to know from you, what do you think is missing? Is there any component, technically speaking, in terms of behavior of the users, what is not there that you would like to see happening in the coming months? So, what do you like the most, and what do you think is missing that you would be like, if only like we have these in this space would be fantastic.
I think the thing that I like the most is the constant change and evolution that we see, whether that's the introduction of a new platform or just the changing of the platform themselves. That I love that. And I can't get enough of that. It doesn't concern me. It doesn't scare me. Sure, it makes the job a little more complicated at times, but I'm not concerned about that. Typically, these evolutions are things that are positive. They're often based in recognizing user behavior and feeding users right back to them what they want to see the most. That really excites me. In terms of things I want to see more, we'll never go back to a day when things were, we'll never go back to monoculture. Things are going to continue to be fragmented. But I like moments when everybody seems to know about the same thing, when everybody seems to recognize one event going on. Those happen in sports from time to time, but they're fleeting these days. And so it would be nice to be able to kind of come back and be a little bit more grounded. But I think that's counterintuitive to what I said I like the most, because I like that there's growth, and growth has been leading to fragmentation. So I guess I just can't get it all.
I know. Anytime that I talk with people in social media, it's this like, hate and love, right? Because on the one hand, it's like, oh, it's always changing. Let's keep with things. At the other time, like, oh, I have to learn this new thing. The algorithm changed. What about this? What about that? Right? But I think that if you really like love working in that, right, that this is the deal. And the majority of times you love it more than what you hate, right? Because if you have been doing that for years and years, it means that you still love that.
Absolutely, it becomes the expectation and it becomes the norm, and so you just embrace it at that point.
Exactly. Max, is there anything else that I need to ask you today, or something else that you are either very excited, something that you're following when it comes to sports on social media that we didn't touch base on?
I think you did a great job asking these questions. I'm excited about a lot. I already gave my plug to the women's tournament and the growth and evolution of women's sports. I think that's usually one of the things that I get the most excited about, because I think it's just something sports fans collectively have just been kind of missing out on, and there's no reason for that. It's actually pretty silly that we could have double the sports and entertainment all year round, and it's something that we collectively just need to embrace more, both when watching on TV or streaming, and certainly when consuming on social media.
No, yeah, and I love that message, right? Because I think, especially, as I was saying before, especially if you're like young, right? And when I grew up, there was only in Italy like soccer, football, whatever we want to call it, or basketball and so on. In the US also, there are certain sports that are very important, like NFL, and then like baseball and so on. But then again, if you're like very young, like many years ago, you didn't have that, social proof almost that, it's accepted as a sport, right? You can also do this if you like it. And I think that giving this to more like mainstream reach, if you are very young and you are interested in a sport, you can learn more about it and have this validation also, right? So I think that what you're doing is very, very important.
It's something. Again, at the end of the day, I'm just a fan, and so the more that I can be a fan and share that with other fans, young and old, that makes me happy.
Fantastic. Max, thank you so much for joining me today to share more about sports and social media and all your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
This was the Influence Factor by the Influencer Marketing Factory, and I'll see you next week.